All right, greetings. We're in Enshrouded, and Scott and I, if you saw on Monday, we're probably done for now. I think I'm going to put the game on a shelf here and wait for a few more updates and see where this thing goes. But as of right now, I put in 76 hours, and where does this game fall? On the scale. So I think that in general, Enshrouded is a good game. It is a very nice mix of adventuring and crafting, which I do appreciate. So I think that is super fun. It reminds me a little bit of Conan Exiles, with the caveat that Conan Exiles has a more hardcore survival element to it, which this lacks. I don't mind the lack of survival elements here, and I think if you don't appreciate that in a game, like you're like, if you're shying off of this game because you're like, well, I don't like survival games. This isn't really a survival game as much as it is a adventuring and crafting game. You're never going to die of thirst. You're never going to die of hunger. Um, all that is simply, I might want to eat for buffs. I might want to drink for buffs. That's what you're looking for. It all plays into exploration and adventuring. Same thing with the crafting. You don't really have to craft anything, frankly, aside from the first initial set of tools and the initial set of things. You could just go out and slowly find gear. Now, at some point, you have to craft to get the grappling hook, and ideally, you would probably want to craft to get the glider. So I'm not going to say you don't have to craft at all, but you don't have to go on a. There's not a gear grind of crafting where you're continuously trying to craft up gear. You can sort of ignore it to a large degree and only craft certain bits. Same thing with building a base. You don't really have to build a base. You can build a little base, done, and as long as you have a roof over your head, you're fine. So it is very much an exploration adventure game with crafting and building elements that you can engage with to a light degree or a heavy degree. Done. I think combat is generally fun. I think melee has a good blocking and dodging sort of rhythm going to it. Um, feels pretty weighty. Getting hit sucks, and it feels like it hurts. So I think melee is good. I like the bow play. The bow play is by far, in my opinion, the most fun mechanically to do with the long shots and aiming, headshots, etc. I'm all for playing with the bow. I think magic is fine in terms of mechanics. It's fine. Um, it's fine. But I think melee and bow are the most fun just to do. Now, they're not necessarily the most effective, but they are the most fun to do. I did enjoy exploration. There's a lot of cool places to explore, and in the early game especially, you're going to look around and you're going to see a lot of, oh, look, there's a ruin over there. Well, let me go look and see what's in that ruin. Oh, there's a cave over there. There's a mine. There's a lot of that in this game. This game does that very, very well. It does draw you to the tower, right, to the next thing. And so I think it does that job pretty well. Uh, similarly, um, similarly, I like the fact that it does also give you places to go specifically. That's the one thing I like over Conan Exiles is that there's always a new place to go, and it's always telling you, at least giving you an idea of new places you might want to go. So unlike, say, Conan Exiles, where so often feels like you are left high and dry to fend for yourself, this game tends to be more guided from one thing to the next, or one area to the next. And I appreciate that, actually. I like Conan Exiles, but there were a lot of times where I'm like, oh, there's a dungeon there? I never knew there was a dungeon there. I would never have gone there unless I looked it up online. I like the bosses. I like the dungeon bits. The hollow halls were fun and dangerous. Certainly easier to do with multiple people than a single person. Um, so I liked those. I liked facing off with the big bosses, like alone with the matrons and stuff, and hiding and popping off shots, and or throwing a bunch of bombs or throwing down the summon skulls. Like all the boss, I think the bosses are pretty fun, and the dungeon bits are pretty fun. Now the bosses aren't that hard, but they can be, they can be a little challenging depending, especially if you're doing something like bow and you don't have a lot of ways to deal with ads. Some of the bosses can be rough. And I like the fact that there is a character progression, there's an item progression, there's a map progression, um, and you can level up your base, and all of those sort of go together. So there's a lot of progression to be had in this game, and I like games with progression. That is one of the things which draws me in and sucks me in, is having progression, having a new thing to do to get to that next level, to get to that next thing. That is a very dopamine inducing, right? Number go up, gamer addiction sort of gig there, right? I want to see the next thing and then the next thing and so on. So all in all, I think it does a very good job. What did I like a little less, or or dislike, or right? What are my cons? I think exploration, while a pro, is also a con. I think that the one thing that the game teaches you after a while is that, yeah, there's a lot of places to go, but ultimately going there, you're not going to find anything better than anywhere else. There's a lot of that going on. After a while, you look and see a ruin over to your left, and you go, I don't care, I'm just going to go to the question mark it has on my map, because exploring the ruin to your left is just going to get you a chest with a random drop, and you don't really care that much at some point. So I do think that exploration tapers off, and the joy of it, unless you just like seeing cool places, because there are a lot of cool places to see. But if you're like me and you're doing it because you want to see what's in there and find cool stuff, I do think that it sort of falls off a little bit. Exploration doesn't last, the joy of exploration does not last the whole game. I think the character progression trees feel a little bit lackluster. I don't love the Path of Exile, but really small little tree here. First off, let me zoom this out, for God's sake. Like, what is this? But I don't particularly love this. Some of the things I don't think make a great deal of sense. I think, for instance, having double jump here, I think double jump's almost a necessity. I would never want to play the game without double jump. So largely, I'm going to spend however many points here. I got to spend 4 or 5 points just to get to double jump, no matter what. I just don't think there's any reason to never not have double jump. Very similarly, I think that the shroud time is good to get, but I don't know that it's necessary. And I love the updraft, great to get, but I don't know that it's necessary. But I think double jump is necessary. I sort of wish they would take double jump off of this and make that something that you level up with, right? Like at some point, once you go to level 5, you get double jump done, and just be done with it, maybe. I don't know. But maybe some people are like groaning because they've played without double jump and it's perfectly fine for them. I don't see how you would play the game without it. I think double jump is a necessity to navigate the world effectively. The rest of them I don't think are, but double jump absolutely is. So I don't like some of the bits of the trees. I don't like the Beastmaster tree. I think the Beastmaster tree doesn't make much sense. Like, you essentially get 2 types of creatures that won't attack you, and if you happen to be fighting something else with them around, they would attack the enemy. It's like, well, when's that going to happen? If I'm going to do Beastmaster, give me a damn pet. Like, I need a pet. Or let me go capture a pet and then drag it around with me. Like, give me something to do. That tree is a dud. Like, there's nothing good there that I think, aside from the stat buffs, of course. But then you're hiding a great stat. You're hiding gain 1 endurance for every 2 levels of the flame. Well, keep in mind the flame's going to go up to level 8, so that's 4 points. That's good. That's a good 4 points, but it is 4 points only. So it's not like it's a game ender, but it's hidden behind like a lot of this, right? You would have to take some of this crap, and I don't know that any of this tree is worth it, frankly. I think the Ranger tree is the best tree for bow, as you can see. I think Assassin has a lot of like weird crap in it where you're like, well, what are we doing? Like, for every target with exploding arrow, damage is increased by 1%. That's probably like a 2 or 3% increase max. Like some of these are duds in here, and I think the bow suffers the worst from it. I think the bow tree is the crappiest set of trees. And frankly, a lot of this isn't even bow. A lot of this is just survival. Like I get better regen and better stamina regen and so on. A lot of the bow stuff, barely does not make bow play that much better in the long run. So I think the trees are a little crappy. In some cases, they are dull. In some cases, I think they're just not as balanced as as exciting as I would like. I think the mages get the best trees, although I have not delved into the fighter trees as much. But again, I did one character that went down barbarian, and I thought they had a pretty good deal. So the verdict's out, but I did not love where the bow ended up compared to, say, magery. And I think that the fact of the matter is there's just not that many perks which do it for the bow, where there's a lot of perks that do it for mages. So I feel character progression is actually a weak point in the game. The other thing I think is sort of weak with character progression is simply the fact that it's 25 levels goes reasonably quickly compared to the map and the other progressions. So, I have a lot of map left, sort of, right? You'll see a bunch of map. I don't know how much of this is map and it looks like there's a lot of map to do, right? I'm done. My character's done. Like, I'm level 25. I'm out. I probably, if I were to play more, I would switch to mage. I would spend a little bit of time working on mage to get, Eternal Fireball and Eternal Ice Bolt and grind up some gear, and then just play the rest of the game as mage. But character progression stops. And that tends to eat away at the joy of the game for me, because I like that character progression. There is still some gear progression, it seems, like some crafting progression, but I think those progressions tail off a lot faster than, say, the map. So I wish there was a little more to do past 25 to feel like you were leveling up or getting better. There's a stealth mechanic in the game, which I never felt was actually worth it to attempt to use. A lot of it requires, there to be bushes around, and that's fine, but I almost never thought that was, I felt that they almost wanted to go, it almost felt like they wanted to go for like an Assassin's Creed style, you go and kill all the guys quietly, and I just don't know that ever makes sense to actually do. So I think it was an odd placement of a stealth mechanic in there that I don't know ever quite. We never used it. Like there was it never felt like there was a point. I think the last thing, and this might be the actual worst thing on this bad list. I don't know that the game has a lot of replay value. Now, again, I have a lot of map I haven't covered. So obviously at some point uncovering this map would be awesome, and we should do that. But I would never play this game again with a different character. Like I would never, seeing all this stuff again, like none of that. You're going to do about the same things in about the same order. Like a Skyrim, at least you can do different quests in different order, or a Fallout, you can join a different faction. Um, you can certainly have different builds in this game, but I think the builds largely are fightery person, bowy person, magey person. You have three builds primarily. You're going to have enough perks ultimately through in that table to get most of the things you want to get. And I don't see the point of going back and doing it again. I think if I'm going to play a fighter, I would just grind gear and then swap out traits to fighter. If I was going to do a mage, I would grind gear and then swap out my traits to a mage, and I think I'd be done and do parts of the map and so on and just get. But once you clear the map, I think the game is over. I don't think there's much left to do. Now it might take another 200 hours to do that. I don't know. But I did not feel like there was a lot going on that makes me want to replay this game. And I think that's probably sort of the biggest downfall of it is I don't know what the end game, so to speak, looks like, or if there even is one, or if there's something to get me to come back to this game after you go through. Now, I will come back to it to see what the updates do, 100%, since they're not even remotely finished yet. And all this stuff might work itself out in updates. So I am absolutely willing to sort of see what comes for this game. It's a good game. It is a definite B plus game, maybe B plus. Like it's a good game. It is currently more fun than Nightingale. It is currently more fun than Power World. It is, like I said, very similar to Conan Exiles, but way more. But it's a PvE game that is more gives more guidance to a single player PvE with less harsh survival mechanics, no purges, right? It's an easier game than say Conan Exiles. But it is very much on that level, I feel, of game, which in Conan Exiles is a good game. It's a very solid game. So I think this is a solid game. I got 72 hours in, or 76 hours. How many hours? God damn, I forgot. I got some hours in. 76.2 hours. 0.2 is just on this video, but 76 hours. I definitely recommend it. And it does hit the $1 an hour mark, price-wise, coming in at, what is the price point of Enshrouded? Coming in at $29.99. So $30, it's easily, I've doubled that in hours. So I think this game is a good value, and I definitely recommend it. Especially if you have someone to play it with, I think that makes it even more fun. And some of the dungeon stuff is hard without a buddy. So good work to the Enshrouded folks, and I'm really excited to see sort of where we are. I mean, still in early access, and you can get a totally full experience out of this early access game. So I would pick it up. I recommend it. All right. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you all later. Have a good one.